Hi, I'm Lee, and this is day 16 of my fourth attempt to get through the book Greenblood. Previously, we had finally met the elves, and after briefly speaking with them, we had two choices. We could apologise for making them feel uncomfortable by disturbing them in the Greenwood, or we could tell them it is they who are to be pitied, for the Westermen are destroying their forest as surely as night follows day. And it ended up with, let me just quickly, I think it was 9 votes. Yep. So 9 of you voted, and it looks to be 7 of you suggested apologising to the elves, and 2 of you voting that elves are to be pitied. So we apologise to the elves and turn to 209. It is a mistake soon remedied by returning to the lands of men. But, you stammer as the elves turn away and slip out of sight. As they go, you look from one to another, and as you do so, each one freezes under your gaze. Perhaps they act so strangely because you are too polite, because they are too polite to disappear while you look at them. For at the edges of your vision, you see them move behind trees and leaf curtains. They vanish swiftly and silently, moving through the dense forest like a rainbow trout in a murky river. They are not wasting magic. You just cannot keep up with them. At last, only one elf is left, and we turn to 230. Why have all your friends gone? Why won't they talk to me? They are elves. They do not wish to. You are an elf. You are still here talking to me. But I do not wish to. Then why do you not vanish like the rest? Shut your eyes for just a moment. So we can do as the elf asks and turn to 240. Or we can keep your gaze firmly on the last of the slippery elves and turn to 250. Now, technically there is a choice, but I'm not going to give it to you. And there is a reason why. So in the past I've talked about how I only want to give you meaningful choices if they work towards the advancement of the story. And if a choice would lead to my death, I would tell you it, but we will progress along with the living path, as it were. But when there's a choice of do we do A or B, like did we drink, could we take the potions, or did we speak to her, did we pity the elves, or did we apologise to the elves? Those are genuine choices which move the story in different ways. Because I knew that depending on what happens, it could go badly, I didn't realise how extremely complicated it gets. So this is us apologising, and we're just speaking with him. One option, we lead to this 240, and it gives us 2 choices. Either choice we take kills us. Cracking. We do the other one, trying to work it backwards is 9. So if we go this way, then it still leads to these 2 points, and it kills us. So whilst there is a choice, one will kill us. And so I have to do the other one. But then it gives us a choice, and we have to do this. That then gives us 3 choices. Technically 4, but one of them relates to having a skill we don't have. One of them kills us. 2 of them do not. So this is potentially going to be a longish episode, because I will tell you the dying path, and then I will tell you a sort of living path, give you 2 choices, as well as telling you what the third dying path would do. So, it's going to get messy, but at least you will hear the options, as pointed out in like the 63, 64 ways plus that I can die in this game from 500 conversation pieces. So quite a hefty way to die. So if we picked 240 and do as the elf asks, which will kill us eventually. So, you close your eyes for a moment, then pondering how hard it has been to find them and how important is your quest, you open them again to make sure the elf is not slinking away, but you are too late. In the blink of the eye, the last elf has vanished. You stomp through the undergrowth, calling and searching, but the only answer is the high, mocking laughter of the elves as they recede into the depths of the forest. You have failed to meet the elves on Midsummer's Day. You can try again tomorrow and turn to 139, or you can abandon all hope of persuading the elves to help save their own forest and turn to 280. Both kill us. or / end the story. So if we try again tomorrow and we turn to 139, the next day you awake feeling uneasy and begin your journey once more. The feeling of being watched soon returns. There seems to be no point in hiding. There might not be anything there. You call out that you've come to search for the immortal elves. A soft, high voice, but a cold voice nonetheless, speaks with a lack of emotion. It is not the day to seek a meeting with the elves. You spin round to find the source of the words. There is the rushing whine of an arrow and a stabbing pain between your shoulder blades. The force of the shot spins you round and you see your killer, a tall, proud elf, standing braced with feet apart between two great greenbark trees. He lets his bow fall to the side in a gesture of merciless contempt. The arrow has pierced your lung, and you begin to drown in your own blood. The elves on you without pity as you die. So not the greatest if we try the next day. So what would happen if we abandoned all hope of persuading the elves to help save the forest? So we're like, well, we've got other options. Let's try that. So we'll go to 280. You abandon the elves, but continue with your quest for the Tree of Knowledge. You are still no nearer finding it when you stumble across the bodies of hundreds of elves lying among the trees. It's as if someone had just switched them off without warning, some even while eating their supper. They are all dead, and the forest is doomed. You will never escape. Which I think we've had before. It starts getting a bit blurry. It's like all these saves and loads. So we can't take our eyes off the elf back on 230. So what if we didn't slip his eyes and instead we kept our gaze firmly on him and we turned to 250? So this doesn't immediately kill us. Why do you stare at me so? Are you trying to turn me to stone? Asked the elf. He grins at you, but you notice he is quivering tensely. I'm not letting you slip away, you say. I have travelled too far to find you, and now that I have, you will not talk to me. Why should I talk to a mortal? You know so little, one might as well talk to a mole or a dung beetle. You cannot hope to understand us and the way of our world. In any case, I'm not taking my eyes off you. The elf skin seems to fade, almost to pearly white as you say this. He sits cross-legged in front of you. Then I'll just have to wait for you to go to sleep. He feigns nonchalance, but seems very uncomfortable under your gaze. At last he says, Tie me up if you must, but release me from your stare, or I shall go mad. It seems your gaze alone holds him in thrall. Fascinating. You ask him what power you have over him. An elf can never turn his back when looked on by mortal eyes. Your gaze entraps us, as surely as if you had shackled us in cold iron. This is why we shun mankind, and rarely show ourselves. There, you have forced the secret from my lips. Will you look away and release me now? So, we have two choices. You can look away out of kindness, or you can demand that the elf takes you to meet his king. So, looking away out of kindness is 330. 330 then eventually leads us to 139 and 180. So I shall describe the folly that is looking away out of kindness, but people could probably guess that it was going to end badly again. You look away for a moment, then sneak a look back towards the elf. You are too late. In a blink of the eye, the last elf has vanished. You stomp through the undergrowth, calling and searching, but the only answer is the high mocking laughter of the elves as they recede in the depths of the forest. You have failed to meet the elves on Midsummer's Day. And then it lets us go to 139 or 280, where again we fail and die. So we must go to 340 and demand the elf takes us to meet his king. We turn to 340. I cannot take you to Elvenheim. I would rather die like a mortal than reveal our last great secret. What secret is that, you ask? No mortal has ever looked upon the glory of Elvenheim. And lived, you ask grimly. No mortals live. If they did, they wouldn't be mortal, would they? You threaten to kill the elf, but he seems ready to die rather than to lead you to his lord. You look deep into his violet eyes, reading there the fear that you are about to cut short a life that should endure for millennia. So, we have In theory, 3 choices, in practice 2. So we can let him go and we can turn to 360. We can tie him up and turn to 175. Or we can kill him anyway and turn to 370. So 370, where is it? Takes us to another sheet, which is quite complicated, but does have an out. It isn't lots of different ways that only end in death, just mostly death. 360 and letting him go does eventually lead to an option that progresses the story. And if we tie him up, eventually leads to a death. So I will describe that, and then the voting will actually be on the 2 valid choices. So if we time up, we turn to 175. You cut a length of creeper from a nearby tree to bind the elf, who does not stop you tying him to a branch. At least now you can stop looking at me, mortal. As your gaze is obviously making the poor elf feel very uncomfortable, you decide to spend a little time checking the area for any of his friends. You find none, though at any moment you expect to feel an arrow piercing your flesh. When you return to the branch to check on the elf, he has vanished. So has the creeper with which you tied him. All that remains is a spattering of ash on the forest floor. In the short time you were away, he couldn't have got far, so you search for him. But his woodcraft is superior to yours, and you cannot find him. Turn to 380. With 380, drawing breath, you listen for others, realizing that at any moment you may be picked off by the arrows of his kind. You hurry quickly through the dense underbrush and stumble across a very strange old monument covered in creepers and partially knocked down by a fallen pine. It must once have been a great victory arch, perhaps built here before the forest itself grew here, or to commemorate a victory against rebels who had hidden out in the trees. Turn to 289. As you stare at the crumbled victory arch, a sense of hopelessness overwhelms you. There is very old, very bad magic here. You can feel it in your bones. You are hopelessly lost now and will never see the lands of men again. This is what all man's labours come to with the passing of time. You are still searching for the Tree of Life when you come across the bodies of hundreds of dead elves amongst the trees. It is as though they have all been switched off suddenly, cut off in the midst of immortal life. Some even as they ate their supper. The elves are all dead, and you and the forest are doomed. I do find it inconsistent. We keep switching between the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge. It feels like they weren't sure which one it should be, and yeah, a little bit frustrating. So, ultimately, we're back at 340. So, in summary, with this trapped elf, we can let him go, or we can kill him. Those are our options. So I'll put the vote out until about lunchtime UK time tomorrow. Get voting and let's see what happens. Thanks very much. Bye.